The stars twinkled like diamonds against the black velvet of space as the Krayak scout ship slowed near the blue-green planet. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, but Commander Vrex was not fooled. Every world had defenses, and this one would be no different. "Analysis complete," reported Officer Zick, his 6 fingers dancing across the control panel. "Mid-tier technological development. Nuclear capabilities but limited space travel. Optimal candidate for standard subjugation protocol." Vrex nodded, his scaled skin reflecting the soft purple light of the command center. The Krayak's empire had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same approach. Send a small force, demonstrate. Superior technology, demand surrender and establish control. Simple and effective. Send the standard first contact message, Vrex ordered. Inform High Command we have found another suitable world for the Empire. On Earth, alarms blared in military bases across the globe. The alien ship had been detected entering the solar system 3 days ago, and now it was in orbit. World leaders gathered in emergency sessions while military forces went on high alert. In a secure underground facility in Colorado, Captain Samantha Russell stood at attention before a panel of grim-faced generals and politicians. "Captain, you and your team have been selected for this mission because you're the best we have," said General Harris, sliding a folder across the table. "If these aliens come in peace, you'll be Earth's ambassadors. If they don't—" He let the sentence hang unfinished. "We'll be ready for anything, sir," Russell replied, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Major Craig Bennett stood beside her, arms crossed over his broad chest. "With all due respect, sir, we should assume hostile intent. No species crosses the stars just to make friends." Russell shot him a warning glance. Bennett was the best tactical mind she'd ever worked with, but his blunt approach often created tension. "That's why we're sending you both," General Harris said. Russell's diplomacy, Bennett's paranoia, a perfect balance. Lieutenant Olivia Jackson joined them as they left the briefing room. Her dark eyes were glued to her tablet. "Captain, I've been analyzing their communication signals. There's something odd about them." "What kind of odd?" Russell asked. "They're too simple. Like they're deliberately using outdated tech to talk to us. I think they're hiding their true capabilities." Bennett nodded. "They're already lying to us. Great start." When the Krayak's landing ship descended into the agreed-upon meeting zone, an empty field outside Denver, it did so with theatrical flair. Lights flashed and energy fields hummed as the sleek metallic craft settled onto the grass. Earth's delegation waited at a safe distance. Captain Russell stood at the front, flanked by Bennett and Jackson. Behind them were Sergeant Alan Diaz, Lieutenant Kevin Patel, and Dr. Heather Mitchell. 20 more soldiers formed a protective perimeter, though their weapons looked primitive compared to the alien vessel. The ship's door slid open with a hiss, revealing 3 tall reptilian beings. They walked with precise movements, their bodies covered in iridescent scales and ornate armor. "Humans of Earth," the lead alien spoke in slightly accented English. "I am Commander Vrex of the Krayak's Empire. We have come to offer you the privilege of joining our glorious union of worlds." Russell stepped forward. "We welcome you to Earth, Commander. I am Captain Samantha Russell, representing the United Earth Council." Vrex's vertical pupils narrowed. "There is no United Council. Our scans show your world divided into nation-states. Do not attempt deception." Bennett tensed beside Russell, but she maintained her diplomatic smile. "Recent developments, Commander. We formed the Council when we detected your approach." The negotiation tent was set up nearby, and both sides agreed to meet with limited personnel. Russell brought Bennett and Jackson, while Vrex was accompanied by 2 officers. "Your terms of surrender are simple," Vrex explained once they were seated. "Earth will provide resources and labor. In exchange, the Krayak's Empire will provide technological advancements and protection." "Surrender?" Russell's eyebrows rose. "We were under the impression this was a diplomatic meeting between equals." Vrex made a sound like rocks grinding together, a laugh. "Equals? Your species has barely left its own planet. You have potential. As workers, but equals." He laughed again. While Russell kept the commander talking, Jackson discreetly placed a small device under the table. It immediately began copying data from the aliens' personal technology. "We need time to consider your offer," Russell said finally. "Our council must discuss these terms." "You have one planetary rotation," Breck said. "Then we will demonstrate what happens to those who resist the Empire." Back at the command center, Jackson plugged in the device. "You're not going to believe this," she said as information filled the screens. "They're planning to enslave us regardless of our answer. And look at how they've classified us." The screen showed human specifications marked as physically weak, technologically stunted, but numerous and potentially useful. Bennett slammed his fist on the table. "They think we're cattle." "They also think we're stupid," Russell said, studying the tactical plans. "They've only sent one battle cruiser in orbit. The rest of their fleet is waiting at the edge of the solar system." Dr. Mitchell pointed to biological scans. "Their physiology is interesting. They evolved on a low-gravity world with stable climate. Their reaction times are slower than ours, and they seem to rely heavily on technology rather than physical strength." "Can we use that?" Russell asked. Diaz grinned. "Oh yes, ma'am. I have some ideas involving their sensitive hearing and our flashbang grenades." Through the night, they planned. Earth's military forces prepared for the worst while Russell's team developed a daring strategy. The next morning, as the deadline approached, Russell's team returned to the meeting site. They brought what appeared to be terms of surrender. "Commander Vrex," Russell said formally, "after careful consideration, we wish to discuss the terms of our arrangement." Vrex looked smug as they entered his ship. Just as the door closed, behind them, Russell nodded to her team. "Now," she ordered. In perfect coordination, the strike team sprang into action. Diaz deployed modified flashbangs that emitted frequencies that paralyzed Crack's hearing organs. Jackson jammed their communication systems. Bennett led the charge against the stunned crew. The aliens had never encountered humans in combat before. They had no reference for the speed, adaptability, and sheer determination of Earth's special forces. Within minutes, the command deck was secured. Russell stood over the shocked Commander Vrex. "You should have done better research," she told him. "Humans don't surrender easily." As Vrex was restrained, Russell activated the ship's communication system. She had a message to send to the Krayak's battlecruiser in orbit, and it wasn't one they were expecting. The first battle for Earth's freedom had begun, and the Krayak's empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating humans. The Krayak soldiers had never seen anything like it. The humans moved with shocking speed, their bodies twisting and turning in ways that seemed impossible. The aliens' combat training was based on precise, methodical movements. It had served them well against hundreds of other species. But humans fought differently. They were wild, unpredictable, and terrifyingly efficient. "Secure the engine room," Captain Russell ordered as she ducked behind a metal barrier. Energy blasts sizzled overhead, leaving scorch marks on the wall behind her. "Jackson, what's our status on their communications?" Lieutenant Olivia Jackson's fingers flew across her portable device. "Almost there, Captain. Their encryption is complex but follows predictable patterns." Across the corridor, Sergeant Alan Diaz pulled a small sphere from his pack. It was a human grenade modified with alien technology he had scavenged during their initial assault. "Fire in the hole!" he shouted, tossing the device toward a group of Crack soldiers. The explosion was silent but effective. A wave of energy pulsed outward, shorting out the aliens' weapons and sending them crashing to the floor. "Nice work," Major Bennett said, moving forward to secure the fallen enemies. "These guys really didn't expect us to adapt their tech so quickly." Dr. Heather Mitchell knelt beside one of the unconscious aliens. She ran a scanner over its scaly skin. "Fascinating. Their nervous system is centralized in their upper spine, not their brain. That's why the stun weapons have been so effective." Russell nodded. "Good to know. Can we use that?" "Absolutely," Mitchell replied. "I can recalibrate our weapons to target that area specifically. Should increase efficiency by at least 40%. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kevin Patel had accessed the ship's internal communication system. He activated it and his voice echoed throughout the vessel, but it wasn't his normal voice. He spoke in the grinding, clicking language of the cracks, sending false orders and creating confusion. "What are you telling them?" Bennett asked. Patel grinned. "That humans can shapeshift and might look like their fellow soldiers. I figured a little paranoia might slow them down." Bennett laughed. "Psychological warfare. I like it." The team moved deeper into the ship. Unlike the sleek exterior, the inside was a maze of corridors and chambers designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Everything was built for the taller, less flexible cracks' physiology, giving the smaller, more agile humans an unexpected advantage. "According to the ship's schematics, the bridge should be 2 levels up," Jackson said, studying her device. "But there's heavy security." Russell considered their options. "We need a distraction." "Leave that to me," Diaz said with a smile. He had already collected an impressive array of alien technology and was combining it with human ingenuity in ways the cracks had never imagined. While Diaz prepared his distraction, the team found a secure room to plan their next move. Dr. Mitchell continued analyzing the data they had gathered. "Captain, you need to see this," she said urgently. "The Krayaks have a much larger fleet waiting at the edge of our solar system. They're expecting a success signal from this ship within the next 6 hours. Russell's expression darkened. "Then we need to make sure they don't get it." "Bennett, what's your take?" Bennett studied the tactical display. "If we can send false information instead, make them think there's a disease on Earth that's deadly to their kind, they might hold off on a full invasion while we prepare better defenses." Jackson nodded. "I can do that. But I'll need access to their main communication array on the bridge." The bridge was the most heavily defended part of the ship. Commander Vrex had been taken there by his guards when the human attack began. Now, he was coordinating the defense of his vessel, outraged that the primitive humans had dared to challenge the mighty Krayaks Empire. "Find them and kill them all," he ordered. "They are nothing but animals with simple weapons." One of his officers looked uncertain. "Commander, they have adapted quite quickly to our technology. Perhaps we underestimated—" "We did not underestimate anything," Vrex snarled. "They caught us by surprise. That advantage is already fading." But Vrex was wrong. At that moment, Diaz's distraction activated. Throughout the ship, environmental systems suddenly went haywire. Gravity fluctuated wildly in some sections while others filled with harmless but disorienting smoke. Lights flashed on and off, and false alarms blared. In the confusion, Russell's team made their move. They fought their way toward the bridge, with precision and coordination that left the Krayaks reeling. The aliens had never encountered an enemy that could adapt so quickly to new situations. As they approached the final corridor leading to the bridge, they encountered heavy resistance. A barrage of energy fire forced them to take cover. "We need to get through now," Russell said. "We're running out of time." Corporal Vincent Rogers stepped forward. "I'll draw their fire. The rest of you can flank them while they're focused on me." "Too risky," Russell replied. Rogers shook his head. "With respect, Captain, we're out of options. Earth is depending on us." Before Russell could argue further, Rogers darted into the corridor. He fired constantly, drawing all enemy attention to himself. The cracks concentrated their fire on him, just as he had intended. The rest of the team used the distraction to move along an alternate route. They heard Rogers cry out as he was hit, but his sacrifice had worked. They reached the bridge entrance with minimal resistance. "Breach on 3, Bennett whispered. 1, 2, 3. They burst onto the bridge in perfect formation. The Krayaks officers were taken completely by surprise. Within seconds, all resistance had been neutralized, and Commander Vrex was cornered. "Impossible," Vrex hissed. "You are a primitive species. How did you defeat my elite soldiers?" Russell approached him calmly. "You made a mistake, Commander. You judged us by our technology, not by what we are capable of." Jackson immediately went to work on the communication array. "Captain, I've got access. I can send false reports to the fleet, but they'll eventually figure it out." "How long will it buy us?" Bennett asked. "A few days at most," Jackson replied. Russell nodded. "That's enough time to prepare a proper welcome for the rest of their fleet." As Earth's governments received word of the strike team's success, Preparations began for the coming conflict. Scientists eagerly examined the captured alien technology, while military leaders developed new strategies based on what they had learned about their enemy. On the bridge of the captured ship, Russell looked out at the stars and the blue-green planet below. The first battle had been won through surprise and adaptability. The next would be much harder. But now they knew something the Kryax didn't. Humans were far more dangerous than the Empire realized. And soon, the entire Kryax Empire would learn the truth. Deep in the heart of the Kryax Empire, on the glittering central world of Krexus Prime, Imperial strategist Zexara stared at the incomplete reports with growing concern. The holographic display flickered as it showed the last transmissions from Commander Vrex's ship before all communication had ceased. "This cannot be correct," she hissed, her scaled fingers tapping anxiously against the metallic desk. "A mid-tier species could not possibly overcome a standard subjugation force." Her assistant, a younger Kryax named Vril, shifted nervously. "The data appears authentic, strategist. The last transmission indicated the humans had somehow breached the ship's defenses." "Impossible," Zexara slammed her fist down. "We have conquered species far more advanced than these humans. Their technology is primitive. Their world is divided. They are barely spacefaring." The strategist paced the room, her ornate robes swishing against the polished floor. Something was wrong with this picture. Either the humans had help from another species, or the Empire had severely misjudged them. "Send word to Grand Admiral Thexval," she ordered finally. "The situation on Earth requires his personal attention." Meanwhile, on the captured Kryax vessel orbiting Earth, Captain Russell's team worked alongside Earth's top scientists to understand their new prize. The ship's technology was decades beyond human capability, but that gap was closing rapidly as they studied the alien systems. Chief Engineer Natalie Parks removed her protective goggles and smiled triumphantly as she held up a modified weapon. "We've done it. By combining our power systems with their energy projection, we've created a hybrid weapon that's twice as effective and half the size." Russell took the weapon and tested its weight. It was lighter than she expected, but hummed with power. "How many can you make?" "With the materials we have, maybe 100. But we're learning more every day." In another section of the ship, Dr. Mitchell was making discoveries of her own. She had been studying the Kryax biological data stored in the ship's computers, comparing it to what she knew about human physiology. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out as Russell passed by. "I've been analyzing the Kryax evolutionary history, and it's fascinating." The doctor pulled up comparative diagrams of Kryax and human biology. The Kryax evolved on a world with stable climate, low gravity, and few natural predators. Their entire species developed in what we would consider ideal conditions. "What does that tell us?" Russell asked. "Everything," Mitchell replied excitedly. "Humans evolved in a constantly changing environment. We faced ice ages, droughts, floods, and countless predators. We had to adapt constantly to survive. The Kryax never did. They've engineered themselves for intelligence, but they've sacrificed adaptability." Russell frowned. "Are you saying we're physically superior?" "In many ways, yes. Our endurance alone is remarkable by galactic standards. We can run longer, withstand more pain, and adapt to new situations faster than most species. The Kryax have never encountered anything like us before." Major Bennett joined them, his expression grim. "That's interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that their fleet outguns us by about 1,000 to 1. "Maybe not," Russell said thoughtfully. "But it might change how we fight them." Lieutenant Jackson called them over to her workstation. "I've been analyzing their communication protocols. The Kryax Empire is incredibly hierarchical. Every decision follows a strict chain of command." "Rigid," Bennett nodded. "That's good for us. Rigid systems break when faced with chaos." Jackson smiled. "Exactly. And guess what humans are really good at creating?" The team gathered around a holographic display of the solar system. Small dots represented the Kryax fleet positioned at its edge, waiting for orders. "Their fleet commander is still waiting for confirmation before launching a full attack," Russell explained. Our false messages have bought us some time, but they're getting suspicious. According to the ship's data, this is Grand Admiral Thexval, the most decorated military leader in the Empire. Bennett studied the fleet formation. They're arranged in a classic hierarchical structure. Take out the command ship, and the rest will be confused, at least temporarily. That's still one ship against hundreds, Parks reminded him. True, Russell agreed. But we don't need to win through force. We just need to make them think differently about us. Over the next few days, Earth prepared for the coming battle. While governments mobilized their military forces, Russell's team implemented their unusual strategy. This goes against every military doctrine I've ever learned, Bennett complained as they finalized their plans. We're deliberately appearing weak and disorganized. Because that's what they expect, Russell replied. They've classified us as primitive. Let's use that against them. As the Krayax fleet began its approach to Earth, they encountered no organized resistance. Their sensors detected scattered military movements, seemingly random and uncoordinated. Small vessels approached and then retreated haphazardly. On the flagship of the Krayax Armada, Grand Admiral Thexval watched with disdain. These humans are even less organized than we thought. Their response is chaotic. His second-in-command, Commander Zrek, wasn't so sure. Admiral, something doesn't feel right. The loss of Commander Vrex's ship suggests they have some capability we're not seeing. One lucky victory doesn't make them a threat. Thexval dismissed the concern. Prepare the first wave of the invasion. We will demonstrate our power and they will submit. What the Grand Admiral didn't know was that Earth's apparent disarray was carefully choreographed. As the Krayax fleet entered the inner solar system, small teams of humans using the hybrid technology were already infiltrating the outer ships of their formation. Russell led one such team, using the knowledge gained from the captured ship to bypass security systems. Remember, she told her team as they moved silently through the alien vessel, we're not here to fight. We're here to teach them a lesson. Back on Earth, Dr. Mitchell made her final discovery, one that would change everything. The Krayax have engineered themselves for intelligence, but they've made themselves vulnerable in the process. Their neural pathways are optimized for logical thinking, but struggle with creativity and adaptation. She looked up at the assembled military leaders with a sudden realization. They literally can't think like us, and that's why we're going to win. As the massive Krayax flagship approached Earth, Grand Admiral Thexval prepared to deliver his ultimatum to the primitive humans. He had no idea that the truth about humanity was about to change the Empire forever. Grand Admiral Thexval stood on the command deck of his massive flagship, watching with growing irritation as the humans seemingly scrambled in panic. Earth's defense satellites moved in patterns that made no tactical sense. Their military vessels, grouped and regrouped without apparent strategy. Their communications were a jumble of contradictory orders and confused responses. Pathetic, he muttered. They face the greatest military force in the sector, and they cannot even organize a proper defense. Commander Zrek approached cautiously. Admiral, our outer ships are reporting unusual energy readings. Several have experienced minor system failures. Thexval waved a dismissive hand. Solar flares, most likely. This system has a highly active star. With respect, sir, the patterns suggest deliberate interference. The Grand Admiral turned to face his second-in-command. You give these primitives too much credit, Commander. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Our scans confirm they have no weapons capable of threatening this fleet. What Thexval didn't realize was that the humans weren't trying to match the Krayax technology. They were finding ways around it. Captain Russell and her expanded strike team had successfully infiltrated 5 Krayax vessels. On each ship, they moved like ghosts through the corridors, placing small devices at key junctions. These devices, created by Sergeant Diaz and Chief Engineer Parks, were a hybrid of human ingenuity and Krayax technology. Final device placed, Russell whispered into her communication unit as she attached the small disk to a power conduit. Moving to extraction point. Lieutenant Jackson's voice came through clearly. Good work, Captain. I'm receiving data from all devices. Their network security is impressive, but they never expected anyone to attack from inside. Jackson was operating from a hidden base on Earth's moon. Surrounded by screens displaying Krayak's data streams, she inserted carefully crafted misinformation into the fleet's communication network. Ship commanders began receiving conflicting orders. Sensor data showed phantom human vessels where none existed. Warning systems detected non-existent threats. Meanwhile, Major Bennett led a different kind of attack. His team had modified a dozen small spacecraft with Krayak's technology. These ships darted between the massive alien vessels, too small to be considered threats but causing constant disruption. Remember, Bennett told his pilots, don't engage directly. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to confuse them. The small human craft performed maneuvers that the Krayaks considered suicidal. They flew directly at enemy weapons, veering away at the last possible second. They disappeared into sensor blind spots only to reappear where they shouldn't be able to go. Each maneuver violated Krayak's military doctrine, which made the aliens increasingly uncertain. On the Krayak's flagship, the atmosphere grew tense. Sir, we're receiving reports of human infiltration on multiple vessels, a junior officer reported. Thexvol's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Our security systems are impenetrable to their technology. The reports are verified, Admiral, Commander Zrek insisted, and our communication network is showing signs of tampering. Find these infiltrators and eliminate them, Thexvol ordered. Deploy security teams to all critical systems, but the crack security teams were trained to follow specific protocols. They moved methodically, checking each sector according to their training. The humans, however, moved unpredictably. They used ventilation systems not designed for transport. They climbed through maintenance shafts too small for Krayak's bodies. They adapted their tactics constantly, never following the same pattern twice. Doctor, Mitchell monitored the biological data from Earth. The Krayak soldiers are showing signs of stress, she reported. Their brain chemistry suggests they're experiencing extreme confusion. Russell wasn't surprised. They're encountering situations their training never prepared them for. How are countermeasures working? Better than expected, Mitchell replied. The airborne compound is affecting their coordination without causing permanent harm. The compound was Mitchell's creation, a mild sedative that targeted the Krayak's nervous system, making them sluggish and confused. It spread through the ship's ventilation systems, carried by devices planted by the strike teams. Grand Admiral Thexvol felt the effects, but didn't understand them. His thoughts seemed foggy, and his legendary decision-making ability was failing him. Around him, his officers showed similar symptoms. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice slurring slightly. "Why can't we contain these humans?" Commander, Zrek steadied himself against a console. "Admiral, I believe we may be under biological attack." "Impossible," Thexvol insisted, but with less conviction than before. "Our ships are sealed against such primitive tactics." "Sir," an officer called out urgently, "we're detecting a small vessel approaching the flagship. It's requesting direct communication with you." On the small screen before him, Thexvol saw a human face. Captain Samantha Russell looked calmly at the Grand Admiral of the Krayak's fleet. "Admiral Thexvol," she said, "I think it's time we had a proper conversation." "You dare?" Thexvol snarled. "You are nothing but primitive beings who got lucky once. My fleet will reduce your world to ash." Russell smiled slightly. "If that were true, you would have done it already. Instead, your fleet is in disarray. Your ships are reporting system failures. Your soldiers are confused and disoriented. And you still don't understand why." "Explain yourself, human," Thexvol demanded. "I would prefer to do so in person," Russell replied. "I am approaching your ship with a small team. We are unarmed. We simply wish to talk." Thexvol should have refused. Military protocol demanded it. But curiosity, a trait the Krayaks rarely indulged, won out. "You will be met by armed guards and searched thoroughly." "I would expect nothing less," Russell agreed. When Russell and Major Bennett were escorted to the flagship's command center, They showed no fear despite being surrounded by armed Kraak soldiers. They walked with confidence, observing everything around them. "How have you done this?" Thexval asked without preamble. "How have you disrupted my fleet?" Russell looked the Grand Admiral directly in his vertical pupil eyes. "You made a fundamental error, Admiral. You judged us by your standards, not understanding that humans evolve differently than any species you've encountered before." Bennett stepped forward. "Your empire has conquered worlds by overwhelming them with superior technology and rigid military doctrine, but you've never faced a species that evolved on a death world." "A death world?" Thexval repeated the unfamiliar term. "Earth," Russell explained. "By your standards, our planet should be uninhabitable. Extreme weather, numerous predators, constantly changing conditions. We didn't survive by developing technology first. We survived by adapting." Thexval looked between the two humans, beginning to understand the terrible truth about what his empire had unwittingly challenged. Grand Admiral Thexval sat in stunned silence as he processed the information. His flagship limped through space, heading back toward Kraak's territory. The remnants of his once proud fleet followed behind, many ships damaged not by direct attacks, but by the chaos the humans had sown. "A death world," he muttered, the term still strange on his tongue. "All this time we have been categorizing species by their technology, not by their evolutionary path." Commander Zrek stood nearby, still, shaken by their encounter with the humans. "The data doesn't lie, Admiral. Their planet has gravity 30% stronger than our homeworld. Their atmospheric pressure is higher. Their temperature ranges would kill most Kraaks without protective gear. And they evolved in these conditions," Thexval said, his voice filled with dawning horror. "Not just survived, thrived." The communication screen flickered to life, showing the stern face of Imperial strategist Zexara. "Admiral Thexval, explain this retreat immediately. The Emperor demands answers." Thexval straightened in his chair. "Strategist, I have critical information for the Imperial Council. The humans are not what we thought they were. They defeated." "Your fleet?" Zexara's voice was filled with disbelief. "They did not defeat us through conventional means," Thexval explained. "They outthought us, outmaneuvered us, made our technology work against us." "Impossible." "I witnessed it personally," Thexval insisted. "We must reassess everything we believed about them." Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news spread that the Kraak's fleet was leaving. Captain Russell watched from the window of the control center as fireworks lit up the night sky. "They'll be back, won't they?" Lieutenant Jackson asked, joining her by the window. Russell nodded. "Not to fight, I think, but to understand. We've become the most interesting puzzle in their empire." Major Bennett entered, carrying a tablet filled with data. "The President wants to meet with us tomorrow. The UN Security Council, too. Everyone wants to know how we did it." "We just showed the Kraaks who we really are," Russell said simply. "Doctor," Mitchell looked up from her workstation. "I've been analyzing the biological samples we collected. The Kraaks have been genetically engineering themselves for generations, enhancing intelligence, refining their physical forms for their specific environment. But they've lost something in the process." "What's that?" Bennett asked. "Adaptability," Mitchell replied. "Natural selection on Earth created humans who can survive almost anywhere. The Kraaks became specialists, perfect for their environment but vulnerable outside it." Chief Engineer Parks joined the conversation. "Their technology is impressive, but rigid. Every system follows the same design philosophy. Once we understood one system, we could predict all the others. In the days that followed, Earth prepared for a new reality. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their first contact had been a conflict. But something unexpected happened. 3 weeks after the retreat of the Kraak's fleet, a single ship returned. This one was different, ornate, gleaming, clearly not designed for war. It carried representatives from the Imperial Council itself. In a grand hall hastily prepared for the occasion, leaders from Earth met with the Kraak's delegation. Captain Russell and her team stood nearby, ready to assist if needed. The lead Kraaks, Representative Councilor Vraxtel, addressed the assembly. We have existed for 10,000 years. In that time, we have encountered hundreds of species, categorized them, and determined their place in our empire. He paused, his scaled face showing what humans now recognized as discomfort. Never before have we needed to create a new category. Until now. Murmurs rippled through the human delegates. Humans, Vraxtel continued, are not mid-tier beings, as we initially classified you. Our scientists have studied the data from our encounters. Your world would be lethal to most intelligent species we know. Your physical capabilities exceed our soldiers despite your smaller size. Your minds adapt to new situations at a rate our psychologists find difficult to believe. The counselor activated a holographic display showing a new classification chart. At the top was a category that had never existed before. Apex Adapters. This is your new designation, Vraxtel explained. The only species in this category is humanity. President Garcia of the United Earth Council leaned forward. And what does this designation mean for relations between our peoples? It means, we offer alliance, not subjugation, Vraxtel replied simply. We have much to learn from each other. After the formal meetings concluded, Russell found herself face to face with Grand Admiral Thexvol, who had returned with the diplomatic vessel. You could have destroyed my fleet, Thexvol said quietly. Why didn't you? Russell smiled slightly. That wasn't our goal. We just wanted you to understand us. I do now, Thexvol admitted. And I must warn you, others will come. News of your species is spreading rapidly through the galactic community. Some will seek alliance as we do. Others will see you as a threat to be eliminated before you expand beyond your world. Then we'll be ready for them too, Russell assured him. Later that evening, Russell's team gathered on the roof of the control center. They watched the stars, together knowing that somewhere out there, other alien civilizations were learning about Earth. You know what's funny? Sergeant Diaz said as he passed around bottles of beer. They thought we were primitive because our technology isn't as advanced as theirs. But they never stopped to ask why we developed the technology we did. What do you mean? Jackson asked. Bennett answered for him. We built tools to survive our world, not to escape it. Every human technology was created to help us adapt better to Earth. Their technology was built to make their already comfortable world even more comfortable. Russell raised her bottle in a toast. To humanity, the apex, adapters. They all raised their bottles, looking up at the stars with new eyes. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. And the universe was just beginning to understand what humanity truly was. In the Imperial Palace on Craxus Prime, the Emperor of the Kraaks studied the reports from Earth with growing concern. Humanity's classification as apex adapters carried implications that went beyond military matters. If humans could adapt so quickly to challenges, how long before they surpassed the Empire technologically? We must watch them closely, he told his advisors, and we must learn from them while we can. Across the galaxy, other empires received the news with varying reactions. Some began preparing diplomatic missions. Others started mobilizing their fleets. Earth's time of isolation was over. The galaxy now knew the truth about humanity, and nothing would ever be the same again.